Welcome to A Shelter in a Time of Storm. My name is Roger Comstock. I preach for the Morrison Church of Christ in Morrison, Tennessee. We welcome you to our program, and let me say a couple things first of all about our program. This program is a little bit different than most of the programs that you might see on GBN in that we deal with some traumatic events in people's lives, and obviously the title of our program, A Shelter in the Time of Storm. And our desire is to encourage people to hold on to their faith in those traumatic situations, to turn to God in those traumatic situations, and hopefully we can be an encouragement and help people in those difficult times that they face in life. We've been doing a series over the last few programs, and we have a special guest with us, a brother in Christ, Colonel Ricky N. Hagan. Is in the U.S. Army. He is in the process of retiring or transitioning to the reserves. He has been in the Army for 38 years and has served our nation in a lot of different capacities and in the battlefront in the Middle East and a number of those different situations. The reason we're doing these programs is Brother Ricky is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and also struggles with traumatic brain injury. And so we're going to be talking about how that has affected his life. And the purpose behind these programs, hopefully we can encourage someone who's dealing with some of these same things, that we can encourage them to get the help that is available and take measures to help themselves through these difficult times. And so that's really the purpose of these programs. Let me say also, before we get into the program, that we're going to deal with some very difficult things, some very real things, and so you might want to take care as to who watches these programs, because Brother Ricky will talk very directly about some of the events in his life and what has brought him to where he is as a man, as a soldier, and as a Christian. And that's the intent of our program. Brother Ricky, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us again. In our last program, we talked about the event in your life when you shot your dog out of, may I say, rage, as a result of the post-traumatic stress disorder. And I appreciate your openness and being willing to bare your soul, so to speak, and allow people to see the real you. And I think that's important to accomplish what we want to accomplish with these programs, and hopefully we can help someone along the way. That instance, we didn't have time to talk about the instance where you shot your dog, but let's go back there just real quickly. And I wanted to touch base with you about that event. And you had talked about what led up to the dog's behavior that led up to that event. But when, at that point, when you picked up a gun and shot your dog, how much control did you have at that point?
Well, first of all, I want to help you out, clarify something.
Right.
When you done your introduction, when you said 38 years active duty, that's collective National Guard, Reserve, and active duty.
I'm sorry.
For all the political
Make
correct
it right.
people.
Yes.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I am in the process of transitioning back to the Reserves and possibly retiring in the next year. If you recall the situation, the dog was chewing up everything, the hose.
Right.
But that day, I was shooting at it,
right.
and it would move, and then it was a game. Mm-hmm. It was a game. If you look at the prior series of recordings that we've done and go back, it was a game. And looking back, I seen it was a game to the dog. But the rage was so. You could measure it on a scale of how mad. Mm-hmm. And a hot July day, but the moment that I knew it hit her from a good almost 75-100 yards away, then it was like it's over, it's done. And I went back in the house. Like I said, I threw the gun on the bed, and I was a lot of very choice cuss words on the way. And then that's when I raised the window up and looked in and see my horses were standing over, and that's when it ripped my heart out. I mean, I just dropped down to my knees and started crying, and I went and got the dog and you know, I prayed all the way to the vet that he would save her, and he did, and she lived. And but at that point, I mean, I knew I was dangerous anyway, as we discussed, not to rehash everything, but I mean, that my whole life was sitting back on the back porch, staying numb, staying away from people. You know, when you did go out in public, you know, you put the mask on and that kind of thing. And, you know, I lived through, and still do, I twitch a lot, I move a lot. I'm a tremendous amount of pain all the time. And so that led to other things of justifying. You know, you can justify anything. You know?
Well, let me ask you, and this may have just been a slip of you just the way you said it, but when you talked about specifically about when you shot your dog just now, you said when we shot the dog. Was that just a, am I making something out of that rather than saying I shot the dog? Was there something?
I guess it's a slip.
Just
no,
a slip. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
no.
Move along. But did I understand you correctly that was kind of the event that made you realize you needed help?
Absolutely. But like I said, I'd been into so many situations, and just anything would set me off. And so you're like, avoid people, avoid stupid, ignorant conversations, avoid, and there's things that I could do to not get in that situation. And you know, that was young into the PTSD. You remember I told you that wasn't the talk of the town then.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't
Right.
until really hundreds of thousands started coming out, and
Right.
they're seeing all this problem with the road rage, the divorce, the domestic violence, all this stuff. But that's when I guess I really swallowed my pride, and it woke me up to how dangerous I was, because I'm in the States now. I'm not in the theater
Right.
of war, so.
There's no outlet.
Exactly.
So
I mean, what if that would have been a situation where, and I don't, but these people that have concealed weapons carry, and they carry a weapon all the time, what if that had been the same situation that particular day with somebody?
Yeah. So when these, and you refer to them as these white knuckle episodes, or when you come to those points, as you refer to it as the white knuckle situation, at what point in your experience, in your life, did you realize that in this, here are my white knuckles again, what am I going to do with it?
Well, it's a combination thing, and that's just maybe a slang term. It's been used for a long time, but it really got brought up a lot in when the war. But your adrenaline, you remember we was talking about the fight or flight thing,
right?
And you learn it early on in school, and the bully on the playground,
right?
And here's the little kid, and hey. I'm scared. I know he's going to hurt me, that kind of thing, so they run. But then one day, Opie stands up to him and he figures out that, the black eye wasn't so bad. Yeah. But there's still that fight or flight syndrome. But here, in this situation, you're talking about, and this is what bothers me with civilians, people in the church, everything. They don't have a clue. They haven't been there. So you can't, I don't even know, doctors, psychologists, whatever, could even measure the level of adrenaline and how that jacks you up. I mean, you're so focused on one point of, I want to live.
Right. I
want to live, and this ain't no joke, Roger. I mean, it's a raw, real deal, life or death thing, and so you're the adrenaline, the rush, it takes you places that nobody in a normal situation in a peacetime is going to experience that.
Right, right.
Then you got to come back down.
So with that rush of adrenaline, how capable are you of making is it just reaction, the fight or flight, or is there an actual decision made?
Well, that's where your military discipline and training comes in. I told you, you train as you fight, fight as you train.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have that training, it keeps you in some kind of disciplinary bounds.
Right.
Of, hey, don't pull that trigger, don't.
Right.
But there's only so much that will come into play. Driving down the interstate, we hit that. When you got your weapon going outside the wire, the white knuckles, you're so tense, you're so, what's going to happen around every corner. You don't realize this is going on.
Right.
When you get back to your AO, your base, your area of operations, and you decompress, and then you
let it out.
And then you got your, 3 or 4 hours sleep, and you go back and do it again. You're going to go back and do it again, over and over and over and over. And it's the mental aspects of it, the physical aspects of it. But here in the States, what do you do with that?
Is that adrenaline rush, is that addictive?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm very guilty, and like I said, I'm a seasoned senior level officer, and I really, my heart bleeds for these young soldiers because they don't have the years, they don't have the time, the wisdom, the maturity to deal with some of the stuff. Because I struggle with it. One of my biggest things is driving, and the interstate, they spent billions of dollars to build 2 lanes, 3 lanes, 4 lanes where we can be expedient in getting to point A to point B. But you've always got the idiots that drive in the fast lane, where when you took your driver's test, it says in the manual how to do that, what lane, blah, blah. Then you got the sign on the side of the road, all the way down the interstate, slower traffic, stay in the right lane. Then you got the sign that says pass on in it. But no, I'm gonna ride right here because I'm a self-imposed American. Mm-hmm. I just do whatever I want to do. So then now you've got 5, 6, 8, 10 cars. So the guy in the back, you're doing 50 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, and here it starts building. Right. Here it starts building. And I've done some things that after I've done it, I'm like, why did I do that?
Right.
But the adrenaline, I pushed that envelope to die just as close as I could, and I wanted to.
Right.
And I went in between cars, 120 miles an hour, and I'm like, but who really? I'm going to say who's to blame, but you don't realize what's out there.
Yeah. Well, in the insurance business, we had what we referred to as proximate cause. In other words, the storm, the actual hurricane, may have been involved, but there was something else that happened that's a proximate
systemic
cause.
What's the root?
So if the addictive nature of the adrenaline rush, and particularly maybe not so much with you, but with guys who are younger, as you said, and less experienced, less seasoned as far as a soldier, when they come home, and that desire, and maybe not a conscious thing, but maybe just an unconscious desire for that adrenaline high, do they put themselves in situations that are likely to bring about
suicide bikes? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where they sell off the wall.
Yeah.
You go back and do your homework. Look at the same situation after World War II. Motorcycles went through the roof.
Yeah. You're right.
Why did that?
I didn't. I never thought about that. But
and that's because I had no helmet. I had no nothing, and I can go as fast. And I'm daring. I'm challenging death today, over and over
for that adrenaline rush.
I mean, the World War II guys, they wasn't all riding around in motorcycles in theater in Germany.
Right.
But why did they come over here because you're going to bring it is because you're going to bring them back, and after they spent four years in the hardest war ever, and now they say, hey, now farm boy, get back over there and plow your corn and hook the mule, all this stuff, turn it. Remember, the civilians and all the people want to have turn it off.
Right.
Just go turn it off now.
And when go back to the road rage situation, when that guy flies by you at 100 miles an hour, and I'll be honest, my reaction is, what's his problem? Because we don't realize, and I have said to you earlier, I appreciate you've made me more aware. You've made me more conscious, and hopefully a little bit more patient and understanding, because I don't know what that guy's.
Well, think about this. If I pulled a gun on you, that would be a bad thing, sure. and you'd be like, oh, don't shoot me. But yet you go down the interstate and you challenge a 2,000-pound tank.
Yeah.
And why would you do that? Because you want to show that you can ride in the fast lane, slow, and I don't have to obey the rules. See, it really ain't the PTSD dude's fault or the soldier's fault. It's your idiot that won't obey and their self-inflicted Americanisms. I'm gonna do it my way.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, because it's made me think about it, and I've thought back about how many times in my preaching that I refer to selfishness and make a connection to driving. And I saw yesterday coming home from the office, I saw there were 3 times that there were situations that was nothing but, and I believe we as Americans have moved that way in leaps and bounds over the last few years, decade or two maybe, but that selfishness that, I've got a right to this spot in the road, I pay my taxes, and I've got as much right as the next guy, and basically phooey on everybody else.
And that's wrong.
It is wrong, absolutely.
It's dead wrong.
And look what it causes. Well, aside from the accidents that are caused, how many times does it cause a road rage situation?
Well, even, and not to drift here, but I mean, you take somebody that not this situation, just because of the selfish act. You take a semi truck, man, they can't stop on a dime.
Oh yeah, my brother was a truck driver,
and they can't turn on a dime.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, because you want to ride over here and Cotton Creek, and just because but that carries over into so many things, Roger. The church.
Oh, absolutely.
The America right now.
Absolutely.
It's all about me. Yeah. It's all about me.
You're right. In my lesson Sunday, I talked about the idol I, capital letter I. Yeah. That we may not be involved in paganism like we think of Athens, Greece, but our paganism is in the form of the capital I.
Absolutely.
As our idol.
You remember
sad to be.
I talked earlier in one of the sessions with a tear in my eye about true love.
Does the hard things, doesn't it?
You got people that say I love you and I'm there for you and everything, but when the rubber meets the road, nah. We've
got about 9 minutes left of this program. Does that give you time to talk about how when you realize in these traumatic events and these episodes, that's the best way I know how to express it, and you've caused some kind of harm to someone else, maybe not physical harm, but you've hurt a family member, a loved one. What kind of reaction does that bring about for you when you realize you've hurt someone out of that rage?
Well, from my inner soul and trying to be the best Christian I can and what the Bible says, it stings.
Oh, sure.
It stings a lot. The biggest thing, I think, and I'm very guilty. I don't have, going back to OCS and being a full-word colonel, and all soldiers in a leadership position as far as that goes. We don't have the luxury of doing the feelings, Roger. We don't have that luxury.
Right.
And you know, I can either chew you up one side and down the other because you're not paying attention, or your method, situational awareness, whatever, or either I can salute you as they put your flag draped coffin in a plane. So you can't compare. There's no comparison, apples to oranges, on the civilian peacetime side than what we deal with. And then when you come back, and then you see this lazy, lethargic attitude that we become, and you're like, really, you know, this is what we're fighting for. I'm defending this, and you know, it's really hard to swallow. But I said this earlier, you know, which one do you want? Because you can't have it both ways. Do you want somebody defending your country, so you can burn the flag, or, you know, do you want some sissy type army that any other rogue country can roll over you and take whatever they want, do whatever they want to your family? What do you want? Because you can't have it both ways. Right. But in the sense of our little politically correct world and emotionalisms, then they come pat you on the back. Calm down, son. Yeah. But what's your question? You asked me. Yeah, it hurts. I mean, I'm sure I've made my daughters cry. I'm a strong disciplinarian. I'm sure I've hurt their feelings. A lot of people around me. But it's that sense of, if you're going to do it right, or don't do it.
But what if that person is totally innocent? They just happen to be there when the rage explodes. How do you deal with the realization that you've hurt somebody you didn't mean to hurt? You've hurt somebody that you had no intention, that they were just literally just the victim.
Well, you go back and make it right.
But
you can't put. Here's the thing: you can't put toothpaste back in the tube.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can use that scenario on me, but I can also turn that around to all these people that's never been to war.
Oh, absolutely.
That got diarrhea of the mouth all the time.
Yeah.
Especially, I won't say especially. I shouldn't say that. But a lot of Christians, and you know, you need to get back in that book. Focus on that book, what it says, before you go into this, you know. But I'm not saying that as a justification of why, but once it's done, it's done. It is what it is. But a real man, a real woman, you go back and make it right.
Absolutely.
And if you're, and we're talking worldly, even worldly, most of them, you say you're sorry, and you mean it, they take it and roll with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. It's amazing how many Christians you can do that to, and they still packing a grudge till they die.
Well,
what's wrong with that picture?
Well, we preach on that too, but that's a hard lesson. But it goes right back to what we mentioned a moment ago. It goes back to that selfishness.
You know, compromise is one of my used a lot of words, but it's one of my most hated words.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
And I see it so much more and more from the time I was first a Christian, that I was baptized into the Lord in the Church of Christ till now, of how the bar keeps getting moved and how much compromise is going on.
Yeah.
And then you look at a soldier. War changes every soldier. I mean, there's and that it is what it is now. Now how to get him back on track, him or her back on track, and have some kind of stability and a peaceful life, that's a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, we're going to have to close for today, and we would ask our viewers to continue to watch. There'll be some more programs along this line with Brother Ricky, and again, Ricky, I want to express my thanks to you for exposing yourself in this way for the purpose of helping other people. You know, these things that we talk about, and in these programs we've talked about the raw nature of the subjects we've discussed. And we've talked about how in that that rawness. There is we use a phrase, and we've used it several times here in these programs, about getting real. Well, that's a difficult thing, it seems, for we humans to do. It's a difficult thing to look in the mirror, and James talks in James chapter 1 about looking into the mirror, and basically, if I could paraphrase, James' question or statement is, you look in the mirror, but what are you going to do with it? But first of all, we have to be willing to look into the mirror honestly. If you're a Christian, look in the mirror honestly and see what you really are. Don't play the word games and justify your actions and rationalize your actions, but you have to get real. You have to look at yourself honestly in the mirror and say, what am I? And when we see what we really are, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to fix it? Are we going to go back to playing the word games and rationalize, or are we going to fix it? There, James says it's like a man looking at himself in a mirror and walking away and doing nothing. So if we're going to get real, and that's absolutely essential to being, I believe, to being a faithful child of God. If we're going to get real, we have to be willing to fix whatever it is you need to fix, whatever it is I need to fix. We have to be honest and objective about what we really are. If you're outside of Christ and watching this program, particularly if you are a veteran or a person, maybe not a veteran, but one who struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder, part of the reason for doing this program is to encourage you to seek out the help that is available and take advantage of that help that's available. But I would say, I would encourage you, first step is to turn to God. And you have to still work on healing those things in you, but you have to be willing to turn to God. Brother Ricky is a faithful Christian, and he would be happy to make himself available if you have a group or your congregation would like to have him come and speak. He'd be willing to do that on the subject of post-traumatic stress disorder. Or if you just want him to come and preach aside from all of this discussion that we've had today, he'd be more than willing to do that. And again, we use this program to try to use it as a tool to get our attention and to help us to see those things and deal with them in our own lives where necessary, but also to be more understanding, to be more compassionate toward our fellow man, to recognize he must really be struggling today and be a little more long-suffering, maybe would be a word that would fit here. And so our desire is to help us all be better citizens, but more importantly, better citizens in God's kingdom.